this film has to happen really for the DCU to be born. So, and it's a lovely tie-up of the end of the DCEU as well. So, for me, I can't wait for it. I think even with Spider-Verse, I'm still leaning towards The Flash as my most anticipated film this year. And I love the first Spider-Verse, but this put a bow on the end of the DCU and set up what should be one of the greatest film series going.
So, CinemaCon's a big thing that I know nothing about, and you're going to educate me on, as a standard. And then, because I guess a big thing from CinemaCon is The Flash, let's do what we always do and trash on the world of Marvel and the world of DC. Oh, and, James Gunn is jumping ship from the Titanic. He's jumping from the Titanic to the iceberg. So we'll talk about that. Right. Let's start with CinemaCon. What even is it?
So CinemaCon is like a yearly event that's held in Vegas that all the big kind of companies like Warner Brothers, Sony, I don't know if Disney goes or not, but all the big companies basically show their films that's going to be coming out every year, obviously going to be released that year, and obviously even the year after. So, for example, last year, the big highlight was Top Gun Maverick. They actually showed the whole film there, which they did with The Flash last night. So basically, it's like a way of basically showing the cinema owners, and that's usually gets invited to go to it, and so obviously quite decent amount of press as well. What's coming out? They highlight the films on there. I think what they'll do is basically they'll by highlighting the films, it gets them to maybe the theatre chains to open up more screens or publicise it more with the posts and the things. They know what's going to make them money. If it's a good product, they're going to basically start advertise it for them. So that's basically what it is. It's a way of these big companies like say Warner's and Sony to kind of show all their big stuff off, and then the cinema owners to kind of look at it and think, yeah, we're going to pull trigger on that one and go nuts with it.
Okay, so I didn't realize that it was kind of like a cinema centric event.
Yes,
I didn't get that.
It was. I think it's been going for quite a long time. But obviously, since the pandemic, it kind of went away for a while. But obviously, when it's come back, last year, basically, because Tom Cruise put all his effort into it, made a big deal out. He was going to. They knew they had a major film, and they knew it was going to be amazing. They knew they had an absolute win on the hand. So basically, I think what kind of companies are doing is like if they know they've got a great film, we'll show that at CinemaCon. It's a big summer film, big summer tentpole. We're going to show that at CinemaCon. That's how confident we are. We're going to show these people. We're going to get great reviews from it. They're going to want to put it on, and we know we're going to make loads of money. And I think that's what Warner's is, that confident with The Flash. That's what they've done this time around as well. So this week we had the first day. We had Sony showing off their stuff, where they showed off Kraven the Hunter. They showed off the Gran Turismo movie as well.
Right. Before we go, right. Yeah. Okay. Fine. Cool.
Yeah, we'll go through. I'll go into the more deep dive stuff later, but basically showing off a lot of their films. Gran Turismo, like I said, they're big kind of Sony's putting obviously a lot of effort into their kind of high end product. So they've obviously got The Last of Us now on HBO. They're doing this film comes out, and they're going to do the same with Horizon, Forbidden Dawn, and things like that, and God of War on Amazon and Netflix. So they're showing they're pushing these things as like a brand new brand that's. Look, this is our PlayStation brand, our Sony brand that we're going to be doing. Look, we've got all these films that are coming out that's against this brand. It's like a Marvel or a DC. Like this is the Sony brand. This is the PlayStation brand. This is what we're releasing. They did really well. So yes, Sony did their thing. They obviously had they invite a lot of the stars on there. They have the full kind of cast of Spider-Verse on there. They showed about another nice. big clip of Spider-Verse. So yeah, it's from Monday. That was them. Warner's was yesterday. And I think I'm assuming we'll have Universal and then Disney later this week.
Oh, wow. So Sony, big time going into the PlayStation cinematic universe, essentially.
Oh, yeah. I don't think they're going to class it as like a universe per se, but they're on brand. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's one of those ones where if you put it as being, okay, look how great our stuff is here, that you package it together, people are going to say, oh, it's another PlayStation film. Let's go and watch that. That's what I think that's what they're going to go for. And basically, since The Last of Us was so well taken. Obviously, people loved it. They've basically saying, right, we want to stay as true to the games as possible, but we'll add stuff to it. And I think they're going that route, which is not the worst idea in the world. You're going to keep the gamers happy, and add a little bit extra for non-gamers on there to make it a little bit more well-rounded. I think it's a good idea. And this brand is going to be popular.
Interesting though. I spoke to someone who's played both Last of Us games, and I asked him what he thought of the TV show, and he just hasn't watched it. He just said, "There's no point. I've literally played both games about 5 times," and he's just thought his thoughts were, there is nothing in that TV show that I haven't already."
He's wrong.
Seen. Oh, really?
He's very wrong. I mean, I've got. Actually, I haven't played the games, but I've got a couple of guys who watched the thing, and they're saying that they're not saying they're taking away from the games. They're saying they add to the games. There's like backstories, a full episode where there's about 2 mates, like side characters in the games that you don't know anything about, and they do a whole flesh out of a story on this whole episode. And it was the best episode of TV I've seen all year. It was truly brilliant, and I'm not committed to Sony as a brand. I've been more of an Xbox on there, so it's not as if I'm like a PlayStation guy. I've got a PlayStation 5. I've got a PlayStation 4. I've always had a PlayStation, but I would always probably lean towards a Microsoft and an Xbox. I don't know why, but I just do. So it wasn't as if I'm like a fanboy for PlayStation, but I've got to say, some of the stuff they're pulling out is, if they can do, I mean, you can see God of War. It's a good IP. You know that's going to make money, whatever they're doing. If they're going to put it as a good TV show, and they're the same faithful to the gaming that people love already, it can't be a bad thing.
On CinemaCon, then, is that all the announcements so far? Because I guess it's still ongoing then.
Yeah, it was Monday and Tuesday. Today's Wednesday, isn't it? So it's the third day, and I haven't really looked anything much further past the Warner Brothers one, because that was the one making all the noise. But it's the one where there'll be something that comes out that's like an example, the Sony presentation on Monday, the way they announced. I knew they were going to show something regarding Craven the Hunter. But they showed a trailer to the CinemaCon. They announced it was an R-rated movie, and it's very, very violent on there, and things like that. I'm like, that's what you do. You make a splash, like you do. You've got your San Diego Comic Con. You basically announce things that people not expecting. So I love that. I like the idea, like something could happen. It might not. We might get disappointed, but I like the idea of that. That's why it's so fun.
So Craven the Hunter is. I don't know anything about Craven the Hunter, but that's the Spider-Man kind of Sony Spider-Man entity. Yeah.
Correct.
So along with Venom, because the one thing I saw somehow, I've been avoided so much CinemaCon stuff. The one thing I saw is that Rhino's in it.
Yes. So basically, what they've done is they're building out their Sinister Six in a way that I'm assuming it's going to be the next movie they'll announce. So what they've done is they've got the Morbius, which. The thing is, there's never going to be a Morbius sequel, but they can put him in as a character in the Sinister Six. They can do. They've got Rhino, they've got Craven, they've got probably Chameleon on there. They've got. I'm assuming they're going to have Norman Osborn been behind it all, and they've now got Doc Ock back and stuff. They've got all these kind of characters that can bring together. The great thing about what I think they're going to do is, I think they're going to tie it to Spider-Verse. I think they're going to set up their universe with one single Spider-Man that's not the Spider-Man that we know. That it might not even be Peter Parker, it might be like Ben Reilly, or it might be Miles Morales or something. But I think they're going to put all these characters in with they'll have their own Spider-Man, or even multiple Spider-Man that will deal with it, and they're going to connect them all together because they know that's money. They can't keep doing these films without Spider-Man in it. They can't. They know that. Sony realised that now when Morbius just tanked. They need to have they need to have Spider-Man in it. You can't do a Spider-Man universe without Spider-Man. It's stupid. It's daft. It makes no sense. Venom made money because it's Venom. The rest of these characters are not strong enough to stand alone themselves. Venom is Spider-Man with a monster in him. It's the same thing, so you can get away with it. The rest can't. So this is what they need to do.
Plus, also, Venom was not a bad film. I mean, I think the sequel was terrible either. I think Tom Hardy kind of played it well.
He did. There's nothing wrong with Venom as a film, but it's like, we could have done this. We could have had Spider-Man, and it could have been Spider-Man versus Venom. That's the thing. Well, it's not that it's wrong. It's just that it could have been better if you had something to it. That's the downside. Well, I think you will do. I think you'll get that.
You're right, because it's essentially like making a Lex Luthor film.
Yes, exactly. Which, I mean, probably they're doing a Penguin series, which, to be honest, looks fantastic. But this is the thing about these films on there. What I get the idea of building up the characters first and then bringing them all together like an Avengers style event with Spider-Man, and I get that. And the problem is that Sony's done something that they didn't intend to do. They've created the Spider-Verse series as an animated series, and it was that good, and the sequel looks like it's going to be that good. They're going to have to incorporate it because it's too good. They're going to have to incorporate it all because people are going to say out there, this is the best you've ever done. Why you're not linking it? It's so easy to do. Yeah. You've already talked about different realities and stuff. You can have them jump into our reality and like, oh my God, I feel so different. It's so easy just to transfer it. And I think that's what Madam Web was going to do next summer when that release. Is it next summer? I mean, this year. I don't know when Madam Web comes out. It must be next year. When that comes out, I'm assuming the post-credit scene is basically someone from Spider-Verse comes in and connects it all somehow. So we know that all actually still tied. Some kind of it's out there. There's no reason not to. It's so easy to do. And I think if they get that right, and they can do, like I say, some characters in Spider-Verse right now, I'm thinking I would prefer to see than this Tom Holland Spider-Man. I would rather see Miles Morales against all these guys. I just think he'd be fantastic. Oh, Ben Reilly, like just a start fresh with a different Spider-Man that isn't tangled up with a total whole MCU. It could be really, really good.
When is Spider-Verse out?
End of this year. It's July, isn't it? I think it's July this year. So, part one's out this year, and part two's out this second year. Yeah. So it's.
I'm not gonna lie. That's one for me. I'm massively looking forward to because I just think that first Spider-Verse film's top tier. So
it's amazing.
So from CinemaCon, what are the big ones? What are the top three big takeaways from CinemaCon? Obviously, the Flash movie. Oh,
the Flash the reviews of just they're very, very strong. They're very, very good. And I saw one person where this is the problem with the Flash movie is going to have. If you don't like Ezra Miller, you're going to go in there not liking this film. This film has to happen really for the DCU to be born. So, and it's a lovely tie-up of the end of the DCEU as well. So, for me, I can't wait for it. I think even with Spider-Verse, I'm still leaning towards The Flash as my most anticipated film this year. And I love the first Spider-Verse, but this put a bow on the end of the DCU and set up what should be one of the greatest film series going. James Gunn, come on, he's taking over. He's not going to do something bad.
No, well, you'd like to think he wouldn't, but no. I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I'm of the age that Michael Keaton is sort of my live-action Batman. Anyway, for me, the Batman is Kevin Conroy animated, and then Michael Keaton live action. Yeah. I've loved every other iteration of Batman. I love the '66 one. I've loved every version of him. I genuinely find the conversation around all the Batman universe, wherever it is, I find it fascinating because some people nail the Bruce Wayne aspect of it. Some people get Batman really well. Some people do the Alfred Batman relationship. That's for me, whenever I'm looking at any Batman franchise, comic book, whatever, that relationship between Bruce Wayne and Alfred is the key element for me. It is always the most important part. Because Bruce Wayne isn't his, when you talk about Batman and Bruce Wayne, he isn't Batman and he isn't Bruce Wayne as the public see both of them characters. The truest version of himself, the only person he can talk to is constantly is Alfred. That's the only time you see who he really is.
Yeah.
Every other time it's a persona he puts on. So I just think those relationships and them conversations are just so key. And any instance of Batman that we've seen, comic, cartoon, live action, my rankings of them almost always align with who's got the best Alfred Bruce relationship.
Yeah. And I can't disagree at all. I mean, I think we've been quite blessed with that relationship recently. We've had obviously the Pattinson the Batman film was fantastic with their relationship in the film was great. I think we'll see more of it in the sequel. But I mean, look at the Ben Affleck version.
Affleck and Jeremy Irons is probably one of the best of them too. I think in the first couple of Batman films for Chris Nolan with Christian Bale, that was great. I think one of the things I hate about the third one was that they just binned Alfred off. And
it was there, it wasn't there. It was like they separated them, which is what you don't want to see. You want to see them working together. They were two. I think they had to do it in the way the story was set up. But yeah, I agree. It's the reason why it doesn't. I mean, I actually quite like the third one. I don't hate it as much as a lot of people do. But the bits that I'm disappointed is that there's not much Alfred Batman, Bruce kind of interaction. I agree. It's a disappointing part of the film.
Mate, I could literally talk for an hour about my hatred of that third Nolan.
You don't like it?
We might do that one day. We might go to war on this. You can.
Excellent.
Yeah,
it's a very divisive film. It's a very divisive film. We'll say that before we even go into it. So absolutely, it's a good idea.
Yeah. All right. So Spider-Verse and The Flash, I guess, are the two big takeaways from CinemaCon so far. Yeah, and yeah. Well, let's see. Like I say, everything so far from The Flash looks amazing. I love Michael Keaton. I'm hoping that he's got a good role in it. I don't know if that's.
Oh, the reviews are coming out saying it's a Michael Keaton film. It's literally he steals it on every scene. Yeah, it's really and it's set 30 years after the end of Batman Returns as well. So it's the way they explain that's the same Batman. Right. So that is so insane.
Well, that Batman Returns was 92, I think.
So is it 30 years? It's 30 years.
I was going to say, it's actually...
Well, I think what they've done is that basically he's been Batman for a long time, and he's obviously the aging Batman on there, which is great. But I mean, we know that I don't know if anybody survives at the end of this film. I don't know if anybody survives at the end of this film.
Okay.
So
let's jump into the world of DC because. DC has been. I mean, it's not even been ups and downs, really, has it? It's been a lot of downs.
See, I disagree. I'm on the. The problem is for me is that basically everybody's looking at it from this kind of connected universe kind of perspective and thinking, it doesn't link very well. But you actually think about what DC have released in the last 4 years. Can you tell me more than 3 bad films? I mean, bad films. Well, I think I can read off probably 5 great ones, which is the problem. People are letting the ones that are not massive hits take. Suicide Squad, absolutely brilliant film for me. I thought it was an excellent. The problem is it released during the pandemic, so it didn't make much money. The new one,
the second,
the James Gunn version. Suicide Squad.
Suicide.
Yes. So that brilliant film. The Batman. Absolutely brilliant. Joker.
Okay. Incredible. Yeah, fine.
That's the problem with DC and Marvel. Marvel only release films in their series, whereas DC don't.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
I think what James Gunn's going to do now with Elseworlds is the best. We've spoken about this many times. I've said it before. For me, there are some amazing stories. Just talking about Batman, his origin stuff, like if you read the Year 1 and Year 2 comics, and there's some great stories there. If you read kind of the 10 years into it, when you've got the first Robin character or whatever. And then if you look right at the very end, when you've got things like Kingdom Come, there are so many great stories that exist over a period of 60 years of Batman's life, if you like. And if you try and do one cinematic universe, the one sort of timeline, you can't have all of these things where there are some just amazing stories. So I don't know what route James Gunn's going to go down with this. I feel like when it comes to Batman, for example, Robert Pattinson is an Elseworlds Batman, and he's early on in his journey. He was only in his second year of being Batman. Perfect, let's have that. And then hopefully the Batman that connects to his Superman film is somewhere older down the line.
No, he's got Damien in it, so he's got to be in his late 30s at least. Yeah, so Damien's around, so it's his Batman and Robin film, so Brave and the Bold.
Oh, right. Oh, I'm so excited. Oh, yeah, of course, yeah, it's Brave and Bold.
Yes, that's right.
So, all the films DC have released since Man of Steel, you've had things like The Joker, which is great, and the Batman film, which has been fantastic as well. But then it is that connected universe stuff that's just been a shambles. That's what
that was a whole point. The reason why he's coming, and this is the thing for me why it's such a big get. You need somebody in charge who makes those decisions, who connects it, and is always there. You can't have this revolving door of who's in charge. Like Zack Snyder was a producer on it, but he wasn't sat and doing half these films. He was producer, and it was like Charles Roven in the background was producing them, but he wasn't in charge of it. It's not got his name on it, as in like, okay, this is my connected universe. You need someone like Feige's taking. That's the thing. If you're going to have, you need to. That's why the separate universe for me makes sense. Having this Elseworlds where they can go and do what they need to do for these films, and get someone like a director with a totally different vision to do a film that suits his style. Do that. I don't want I don't want every single film. I don't need to connect. I really don't. I want to see the Joker. Things random like why that should not have worked as a film, but it did. The guy had a vision. I'm going to knock this out, and it was great. I like that, but. This is the problem about the connected universe they've had in the past. They've not had one guy steering it. You need in this case, two guys steering it. That's what they need. And what they've done is they've basically 2 or 3 years ago, they've decided, right, we're going to get somebody, we're going to basically, when Warner Bros. Got taken over, literally the first thing they did was we got James Gunn he's released Suicide Squad. They saw how good that film was. Right, you're doing Superman. He's been writing that for ages, so there's no way they've not thought of it straight away. They've looked around, can we find somebody who's going to be in charge? They couldn't find anybody better than James Gunn. And I'm sorry, but he's literally Marvel's tier 1 guy. He is. Yeah. He's their best director. He can do everything. He can do the sad stuff. He can do the funny stuff, and he can do the adventure. He can do the high tech, high vis, and he can do the low tech stuff. He can do everything. He's the guy you want in charge. Yeah, he might not be making all the decisions because Safran's there as well. Who'll probably do more producing side of it. But this is what was needed, and it's taken 3 or 4 years for them to get there. But from the start filming in January for the new Superman film, it's coming. These last 3 films are coming out, and they've had to release them because, like I say, this film, The Flash, is great. But I think that they take this decision 3 or 4 years back on there, or even you think 2 years back. We all knew it would come in. We all knew this universe was coming to an end. It's how do you wrap it up, and how do you spin off, or you start fresh? And I think they've decided to do a little bit of both, which is probably not the worst idea.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be tricky. I've recently watched that Shazam film, and there's a lot of rhetoric around, everyone knows that there's a new DC universe of films, and so this doesn't really follow on to anything, and et cetera, et cetera. That's why it's tanked. No, it's tanked because it's pretty bad.
It's a bad film.
It's just not a good film. That's why it tanked. But also, the fact that this film had to come out. I love that The Rock is now the bad guy in all of this. I think that's hilarious.
Well, the 2 things about Shazam. First of all, it got cut to death because they had to make it fit for what was going to happen.
Yeah.
So, and again, it was originally the original screenplay who had The Rock in it. He decided he didn't want to do it, so he wanted to do Black Adam, which I think it wasn't the worst idea. But that film suffered in the fact that the guy who was in charge of it wasn't in charge of it. He basically decided that this is what I want to do. Yeah, you can't do that. Rock's taking that character away. I want to have Superman in it. No, you can't because we're not doing Superman anymore. We're going to start it fresh. So everything that was going to be doing, he was going to be joining the Justice League or he wanted the Justice Society. He wanted to fully join the Justice Society in that film. Yeah. The writ scripts and they couldn't do it. The problem is, I think people have released films that DC have had to release film because they can't go so long without releasing films. And in the end, it's like, okay, we'll have to put some stuff out. Let's hope we'll throw a load of stuff out and see if it hits the one, if it's good or bad. Some's been good and some's been terrible. It is what it is.
Yeah. It's just poor. I keep forgetting about Aquaman as well. I don't even know when that's coming out.
The thing for me about Aquaman is the first film made a lot of money. It made a lot of money, like over £1 billion. It's just this is massive. So it made money. It wasn't it's not a bad film in any way for me. I think it's just decent. It's like an adventure film that's decent. But it got made. Yeah, exactly. It comes out. It's not going to fit. There's no way I think that fits in this new DCU. The Flash is going to come out. It must be set before it. It must be set before the Flash happens. Again, I'm just assuming post-credit scene. He's got to because he's not going to be Aquaman in this film. There's no way they're going to have an Aquaman fully fleshed who's met Superman and Batman and everybody else. Oh, but by the way, this Superman's totally different, this Flash is totally different, this Batman makes no sense. It can't.
Yeah.
So I think there'll be certain characters you've never seen meet Superman and Batman and still be brought forward. Like I say, a lot of the Peacemaker characters, for example, but everybody else starting fresh. It's a lame duck. Everybody knows it, but and I've heard it's terrible as well, which is not good. I've heard it's a very bad film.
I don't know why. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a fan of what they did with Batwoman, but at certain times you just think, oh, can you just like tax write that off and just save a ton of money and just do something better?
Well, the difference is like 70 million to 250 million. That's the only difference between these two films. That's how much. That's how much. Well, once you start filming and you decide you're going to release it on there, then you basically you have to go all in. They've done reshoots on there three or four times to make it fit. I mean, there was an original one where Henry Cavill was in it as Superman on there. He did scenes on there. I believe they've been cut and he's no longer part of it. So it's like they've done all this extra stuff. They've done all this extra shooting on there. They've had to do short shooting without the director for the reshoot. So it is what it is. You either do it or you don't. If you do it, just try and get out what you can do. I think he'll probably make a decent amount of money. He's coming out at Christmas time, so he'll probably make a decent amount. But he'll not make $1 billion. Not like last one.
I don't know what else will be coming out around it. But you release it like Mario did really well in the cinema I'm at. Every single day was busy, and it's Easter holidays. At 2 o'clock matinee during Easter holidays. Yeah. You're going to take your kids there, especially because it's, we're in Yorkshire and it rains all the time. It's just somewhere warm and dry to go for 2 hours. Right, let's quickly, I kind of just quickly want to go through the current slate of films under that DC window. So Man of Steel was good. Dawn of Justice was middling.
I really enjoyed it. The extended edition that came out on DVD was better than the theatrical cut. Massively different. Changed the story quite a lot.
Massively, and they only added 10 minutes. Massively different.
It was on the good side, didn't it? It's on the good side,
amazing. Like literally, added, I guess, like half a dozen scenes, 30 seconds each, or extended a scene or two, and I'll put it in the good pile. Suicide Squad, the first one. That's on that side. Wonder Woman's on that side. Justice League's on that side. Aquaman's on that side. Shazam's on that side. Birds of Prey for me.
Pretty bad. I just put it on the other side. It wasn't a horrible film, but it wasn't a great film. So put it on the other side. Probably.
It was bad. It was bad. Wonder Woman 84 was bad.
Bad.
Zack Snyder's Justice League. I get that. So 6. The Suicide Squad I put there. Black Adam I'd put there. Fury of the Gods I put there. So okay,
you're outweighing it. The problem is people don't like there's other films released, and you got to remember if you think about what's missing from that list as well. It's quite heavily weighted to the decent films. You've got the Joker to add in there. You've got the Batman to add in there as well.
Yeah.
So the thing is, this is the problem with DC is that it just comes. I don't know whether people are just lazy and they get confused with the fact there's multiple series of it. You know it. You think about it. But when people think back, they just think about the DCEU. They think, this film, this. And I get it. That's the bad part of it. They needed to clearly separate their universe and make sure that people, that black label or the Elseworlds, they need to have done that a year. People need to do that 4 or 5 years back. They should have done that and made it clear.
I think one of the problems is that the big tentpole of that, if you were to list off 13 DC films, the one that should have been really good was Justice League. That should have been the culmination and the gathering together of these massive name any generic, let's say pre-Iron Man. Let's go back to 2007. If you start asking people to name superheroes, guarantee you more.
Spider-Man, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Green Lantern. There's no Marvel characters on there whatsoever apart from Spider-Man.
Yeah, Spider-Man's the only Marvel one there. So this really should have been just the pinnacle of popcorn cinema, and it tanked just catastrophically. And I think that's where the pain comes from. And then Wonder Woman was great. That first Wonder Woman film was superb. And 1984 was.
This is the whole thing where I just think that there's people being in charge of the actual company. Basically, they've given too much kind of leeway to individual directors to move away from the original vision in one way. You can Feige allows it to in Marvel. It allows people to have their own vision on there, but he reins it in and still makes it fit in that universe. There's nobody sat. This is the problem with DC. There's whoever gets right. We let filmmakers do their own films. That's fantastic, but you need someone who's there to basically put them in check and say, look, you can do whatever you want, but I need this to still fit in this universe. And then whatever you want to do in that, that's fine. But that's not what's been happening, I don't think. And that's the whole issue with it. I think that's why James Gunn and Safran coming in and being in charge will make more sense. He will still allow people to go and direct their own films, but it still has to make sense in the larger, broader range of the storyline. So, yeah, I think this is the fix is coming, and for me, the only thing I can say is that James Gunn, I've never seen a bad James Gunn film. I can't, going back to Slither and all these kind of, going back in the past, I'm just like, is there a bad James Gunn film that I can think of? Do you know what? I hated that. I thought it was rubbish. And I can't think of one. It doesn't come to mind.
Written or directed?
Directed.
As a director?
I can't think of any that comes to mind. I'll probably be surprised. Oh, I did that, but I can't think of any that I've just hated.
No, but there's a lot I've not seen. But also, I did have a quick look at his kind of filmography, and just as a director, and he's not got a massive back catalogue. And
no. He picks his battles, which is not a bad idea, actually.
Yeah. Peacemaker was a thoroughly enjoyable TV show. I
loved it
for me. I thought it was fantastic, and I think that's probably another part of the reason why he's been given the role that he has, is because he's writing good content. And like I think we said it before, he's a writer, and you want someone who understands story and can write well and bring characters to life and take characters on journeys. I think that's part of why he's been given that role. So the future looks bright for DC. Let's say that. I think, like you said earlier, I'm not sure much of does any of the previous slate of, exclude Joker and the Batman, looking at just the DCEU, does any of that slate continue? Like, I feel like Flash is just a complete, they'll do the Flashpoint thing, a new person playing Flash and a new world and all that.
Oh, yeah, I think the only people that come through is the Peacemaker cast. Well, obviously you've got Amanda Waller who's been in it. She's got her own TV show coming, which is set in DCU. But no, I think he'll probably pick his favourites on there, that basically he wants to, and then he'll recast what he doesn't. I think you can do a whole kind of. The thing about Flashpoint is that basically you can have certain things that stay the same and things that dramatically change. So he might decide, and it sounds ridiculous, but if this film makes $1.5 billion, The Flash, they keep Ezra Miller's The Flash. That it could happen if it makes a lot of money and people want it. They might do that, but the thing is, it's got to be still very different because they're not going to keep Michael Keaton as Batman. There's just not. There's no way he's the new Batman. So it's one of those ones where basically even if they do keep certain parts of it, it's only be small little snippets. And is it worth it keeping Ezra? Is it the big risk? Because it's not going to be a direct sequel. So does it make sense to do that? So no, I think it'll be a total reboot in a way that he'll keep certain characters on there, maybe like the Argus people on there, and that'll be it. And that's it. Yeah. Argus will be the same or very similar. Not maybe the exact same character, but the Peacemaker might be exactly the same in there. But other than that, no, I don't think he'll keep much because you don't need to. People want to see it.
No, he doesn't need to.
They reboot all the time.
I was going to say, it puts his stamp on it then, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
You want, in 5-6 years' time, 10 years' time, you want to be able to look back and see a shift. You want to go pre and post James Gunn, essentially.
Saying that, though, what I will say is that I 100% believe that all this universe ain't fully dead. I think they will come and visit back again in a movie. If you can't tell me they're kind of like, say, the Flash of Two Worlds, where they bring back this Flash and then a movie, and it's got basically like a Justice League versus Justice League film, or they could even have like an Injustice film where basically there's the alternate versions of them, or like the like Ultraman, like Henry Cavill playing Ultraman, and then Ben Affleck playing like Owlman and stuff. Basically, they can do stuff like that, and that makes money. You could have, obviously, like you got obviously Gal Gadot playing the evil version of Wonder Woman. They bring those back. They're those dark characters, and that makes so much money. You put that trailer out, and I would love to see that. So I think that's what they'll probably. I can't see him totally getting rid of the whole thing, as in never coming back to it, because it's money. You don't.
Oh, mate. I want to see that film.
Henry Cavill. It's going to happen. I mean, they're going to lead that. Well, that's what they were going to do. They were releasing a film. It was in pre-production for Crisis on Infinite Earths. You're telling me they're not going to have these guys in from Crisis on Infinite Earths? You're not going to have the Barry Allen from the Flash TV show as a Flash in that film? Come on, they're doing Crisis on there. They're going to do it as a film. It might be 5 or 10 years down the line, but Henry Cavill is still going to look ridiculously good in 10 years' time. Let's be honest. So you can have him come back as an older, wiser Superman.
He's definitely got a painting in the attic, that guy. Right, mate. Fantastic. And we shall have a chat next week as well.
See you next week, mate.
See you, mate. Bye.